Hello and welcome to the Voices from the Beyond podcast, where we have conversations with timeless poets, bringing the past to life, one episode at a time. I'm your host, and today I'm thrilled to introduce you to our special guest, Edgar Allan Poe. He is one of the most influential and mysterious writers of the 19th century, known for his dark and macabre tales and poems. In this episode, we will explore his life, his works, and his legacy. We will also hear him recite some of his most famous poems, such as The Raven, Annabel Lee, and The Bells. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this journey into the mind of Edgar Allan Poe. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jordan Tyler Quinn Farkas, and today I have a very special guest with me. He is the master of macabre, the prince of poetry, the legend of literature. He is none other than Edgar Allan Poe. Mr. Poe, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Quinn Farkas. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Poe. I assure you. Let's get right to it then. Seeing as you've been, well, as dead as a doornail, for many years now, are you aware that you are widely regarded as one of the most original and influential writers in American history? How do you feel, being summoned here today, and learning that your works have inspired countless authors, artists, musicians, filmmakers, and even video game developers? Moreover, how do you feel about your legacy and your impact on the world of art and culture?
Well, I must confess that I am rather surprised by the extent of my fame and popularity. Until you summoned me from the grave for this interview, which I am eternally grateful for, one can never get enough publicity, in life or after. Take it from me, when I was alive, I struggled to make a living from my writing, to put it very mildly. Further, I faced constant criticism and ridicule from my contemporaries all the while I was amongst the living. So, to answer with the utmost honesty, Mr. Quinn Farkas, I never expected that my stories and poems would endure for so long and reach so many people across different mediums and genres. That said, I am absolutely thrilled, and a bit annoyed that it took me dying to gain the fame I worked so dreadfully long to attain. Quite frankly, it's a bit of a shame. But, I reckon that's just the way it goes, at least that's what they say when you play the game.
Well, I must say, your response isn't surprising. At any rate, Mr. Poe, what do you think is the secret of your success? What makes your work so appealing and timeless? Oh, and please, call me Crow, all my friends do.
The secret of dying broke, and addicted to opium? Penniless? Or the belated success I gained after my death? Forgive me, Crow, my humor isn't what it used to be. Here's the deal, my good sir. I think the main reason my work held up over the years is that I tapped into the universal human emotions of fear, sorrow, love, and madness. I explored the dark and mysterious aspects of the human psyche, the hidden secrets and desires that lurk beneath the surface of our rational minds. I also experimented with different forms and styles of writing, creating new genres and techniques that challenge the conventions and expectations of my readers.
Speaking of genres and techniques, you are widely credited as the inventor of the detective story, the precursor of science fiction, and the pioneer of Gothic horror, did you know? And, at any rate, how did you come up with these ideas? What were your sources of inspiration? Our audience is dying to know.
I did not know, thank you for cluing me in, Crow. Look, my good man. Here's the naked truth of it. I was always fascinated by puzzles and mysteries, by logic and deduction. I read a lot of books on cryptography, mathematics, physics, astronomy, and other sciences. I also enjoyed reading tales of adventure and exploration, especially those set in exotic and remote locations. I combined these elements to create stories that featured ingenious plots, clever clues, and surprising twists. As for horror, I was inspired by my own experiences of tragedy and loss. My mother died when I was very young, and so did my foster mother. My wife Virginia died of tuberculosis after a long and painful illness. I also suffered from depression, alcoholism, and drug addiction. These events shaped my worldview and my imagination. I wrote about death, disease, madness, torture, murder, revenge, and other horrors that haunted me.
That's very interesting and very sad. I'm sorry for your losses. Mr. Poe, you are also known for your poetry. You wrote some of the most famous poems in the English language, such as The Raven, Annabel Lee, The Bells, and more. How did you approach poetry? What were your goals and methods as a poet?
Poetry is the highest form of art. It is the very expression of the soul, in words. My goal as a poet was to create a single effect or impression on the audience. To achieve this effect, I used various methods such as repetition, alliteration, assonance, rhyme, meter, symbolism, imagery, and allegory. I also paid close attention to the sounds and meanings of each word, and how they fit together as a harmonious whole.
That's very impressive. You really are the man. Listen, Mr. Poe, my summoning spells is about to wear off, and I'm afraid you'll be back off to the grave, but fear not. This interview will be eternally saved, listened to, and replayed. At any rate, before you go, I want to ask you about your current following. You have millions of fans around the world who admire your works and celebrate your life. You have fan clubs, festivals, museums, statues, memorials, and even a football team named after you. How do you feel about this? Are you appreciative, or do you find it strange?
Well, my feelings are mixed. On one hand, I am grateful for the love and respect of my fans. It is flattering and humbling to know that my works are so popular today, but it would have been nice to receive some of that recognition before I kicked the bucket.
Of course, I can understand your views there, for sure. Well, it looks like we're out of time, Mr. Poe. It has been an honor. I'm sure our audience is now eager to learn more about your work and your life. Before we wrap up, I have one last question for you. What do you think of Crow Medicine, my new chapbook of poems, inspired in part by your style and themes?
Crow Medicine? I must confess, I had never heard of it until you summoned me and shoved it under my nose. But I have been dead for quite some time now. You'll have to forgive me. From what I gathered in the 20 seconds I had to look it over, the concepts behind your work have piqued my curiosity, Mr. Farkas. In fact, for a moment, I thought that I had written it. I'd love the opportunity to give it a closer look, as should your audience.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. That means a lot coming from you. And thank you for your time and your insights. Again, it has been a real honor and dream come true to interview you.
The honor is indeed all mine, Crow. Thank you for your interest in my work and for your kind words. I wish you all the best with your chapbook and your future endeavors. I hope that you'll consider summoning me for another interview in the future.
Thank you very much, and of course, I have a few other dead poets to summon for my audience first. But I'm sure we'll summon you for further discussions at some point. Thanks again. It's been a really awesome experience. That said, this concludes our interview with E.A. Poe, the master of horror and mystery. Stay tuned for more exclusive interviews with other literary legends in future episodes. Until next time, this is Jordan Tyler Quinn Farkas, signing off.